I think, Mark, like if there's one thing I want to suggest to people, and maybe it's just my personal feelings on it, is that it's really important not to waste time. You need to get on it quick. You need to talk about it with everyone. And I think this probably goes for every health, illness, disability, anything. You need to find mentors and quickly, and not be ashamed, especially now there's so much awareness in disabilities and mental health that even when Alex is acting up in public, I kind of whisper to people he has autism. And then they're like, oh, he's so cute, other than a pain in the butt kind of human being.
In today's heartfelt episode of the Hero of the Hour podcast, Mark Murphy invites you into the lives of Jodi Wiseman and Carrie Leshin, two extraordinary mothers raising children with special needs. Join us as Carrie and Jodi openly share their personal journeys, recounting the moments they discovered their children's special needs diagnoses and how they coped with the unexpected turns in their lives. They reflect on the misconceptions surrounding parenting children with special needs and offer valuable insights into the emotional and practical aspects of their experiences. In this episode, we will explore the power of a supportive community and the essential role that mentors and therapists have played in their families' lives, as well as the resources and organizations, such as the Friendship Circle and SJ Health Insurance Advocates, that have provided invaluable assistance and guidance. Listen now and enjoy this conversation that sheds light on the experiences of parents raising children with special needs, and discover the resilience, love, and strength that define their remarkable journeys.
I'm joined by two very inspiring ladies, Jodi Wiseman and Carrie Leshin. And I think today we're just here to talk about I'd love to hear your stories, because one of the thing that I notice is that regardless of where you live, regardless whether you have very little money or whether you've got a lot of money or anything in between, it seems like every family is struggling with something, or every family has their challenge. And I'd love to, hopefully spend some time with our audience sharing some of your challenges, but more importantly, talk about some of the successes and how your families have dealt with these challenges, to go on to greater and greater heights. And I just want to spend a minute just reading a little bit of about each of your story. Jody, for you, I know you well, and I know all three of your children. I know you've got a 20-year-old son, and we've got a 14-year-old daughter, and I know Alex is 22. And I know when he was 3 years old, he was diagnosed with autism. And I know he attends a very specialized school with only about 30 students, where he's really learned some essential life skills. And I know one of the things that I've always heard you say is that you emphasize not letting autism take over the family's life, and always expecting all the children to develop to their full potential. And I want to talk about that and a whole lot more with you. And with Carrie, you have a 17-year-old son, Sam, who was diagnosed. I think you diagnosed him with cerebral palsy at birth. And despite that, he's facing challenges with a feeding tube dependence and delayed milestones. And I know you've dedicated a part of your life, or your life, to the goal of Sam's happiness. And I understand that there is no happier human being on the planet than Sam, and that he's got a Julia Roberts like smile that can light up a room, and is the great light of your life. So I would just start by just asking each of you, uh, what are some of the biggest misconceptions about raising children? Because you both have together. I think there's six children between you, right? Carrie, you have how many?
Too.
Two. So there's five children between you. I think between the three of us, I have five, so we have 10 between the three of us. But so just share with you. Just I'd love to hear some of your misconceptions.
I mean, I think the saying, when you plan, God laughs, I would say that is in a nutshell. Anything you think is going to happen, or any strategy or any discipline or non-discipline that you impose on your kids, they're going to do it how they want to do it, regardless of special needs or not special needs.
For me, I think one of the biggest misconceptions, and one of I think one of the most gut-wrenching things that people say is God gives you what you can handle. And I don't think that's true at all. Jodi, would you agree?
I don't like when people say that to
I
me.
hate when people say that. It's actually one of the worst things you could say to a special needs mother, because God gives you what he gives you, but it's up to you on how you handle it. And I think that both Jodi and I have surpassed, I guess, our own expectations, right, with raising our children, and very different, but also very challenging. But yeah, that's basically what I think.
Um, what was your, I would say, what are the most significant challenge? Well, first of all, let me start by saying, as I mentioned the name of the podcast, the Hero of the Hour podcast. And Carrie, I'd just like to find out from you, why is Sam your hero?
So for me, I don't think there's a stronger human being than Sam. I think he has suffered so tremendously from birth and just strives to get stronger and learn more and just be happy and enjoy the little things in life. He's so innocent and so sweet, and he just teaches me, and I think many other people that are in contact and work with Sam, just to be happy with the little things and not stress the big stuff. And Sam's happy when there's sunshine, he's happy when there's rain, he's happy when he gets a new toy, he's happy to just sit down and hold your hand. He just puts life in a tremendous perspective for me. And to me, that's a hero.
I would agree with that. Jodi, tell me, I know Alex, his mentors and his therapists are heroes to him. Explain to people how, what's that all about?
Well, I would say they're heroes to myself and my husband and the rest of the family. I don't know about to Alex, because he's tried to send them to jail and lots of firing and all that. But I mean, to me, had I not quickly, after he got diagnosed, got in touch with some of like the best mentor mommies in our area, and they guided me and directed me towards the heroes, and maybe they're heroes also to me. I don't know where we'd be today. I mean, one of the first therapists that worked with him, listen, she was a little kooky, and it was a little scary to watch how much she pushed Alex, and he hated every minute until he didn't. But she taught him how to tie his shoes and ride a bike, and she ran with him. I could have, how to brush his teeth, how to get dressed, how to set an alarm. And from them, it was, then it was a very small applied behavior analysis school. And I don't think I don't think he would have made as much progress if it wasn't for that school and that specific person in our life.
There are going to be people watching this podcast who are going to discover that their child has special needs, maybe in the near future, or may have just discovered it very, very recently. Just tell people a little bit about your journey when you learned about your child's special need and how you dealt with it.
Yeah, I guess. Well, it started, I knew that there was something wrong with Sam before he was born. I specialized in feeding and swallowing as a speech pathologist in the hospitals in Manhattan. And when Sam was first born, I immediately noticed, I did a little neuro assessment because of the things that were the symptoms that I had before he was born. And I realized very quickly that he had a severe neurological issue. I mean, and one of the first things was that he couldn't swallow, right? He was drowning on his own secretions. So I think, after that first shock happens, you just go into warrior mode, and you just go into autopilot, and it becomes your job. It becomes your full-time job. So you have to put mommy aside and say, no, I got to figure what's going on. I have to keep my child alive because he's drowning on his own secretions, and we need to figure out what's going on because I'm not going to lose this baby. So that was the start of it for me. It was pretty intense and really traumatic, but I just kind of powered through and did what I needed to do. And 17 years later, he's still alive.
Jodi?
For me, Alex was developing fairly typically until about 2.5, and where he stopped learning more language and lost a little eye contact. And so when I first found out, and a few people outside of my immediate family told me I should have him looked at first I was like, nah, he'll be fine, he'll be fine. And I kind of didn't want to say the word autism for a very short time. And then I got into warrior mode, to use what Carrie said. And I think, Mark, like, if there's one thing I want to suggest to people, and maybe it's just my personal feelings on it, is that it's really important not to waste time. You need to get on it quick. You need to talk about it with everyone. And I think this probably goes for every health, illness, disability, anything. You need to find mentors, and quickly, and not be ashamed. Especially now, there's so much awareness in disabilities and mental health that even when Alex is acting up in public, I kind of whisper to people he has autism. And then they're like, oh, he's so cute, other than a pain in the butt kind of human being. So,
That you talk about warrior mode initially. The one of the great things you have in life is perspective, and that it's 17 years for you, Carrie. I think if I'm doing the math right, it's about 19 years that you've known. Alex has had almost 20 years that you knew about his condition. How do you balance? You can't be in warrior mode the rest of your life. So how do you balance the needs to advocate for your child, but also advocate for yourself, for your other children, for the other people that you care about in your life? How do you make that work?
For me, I didn't for a really long time. I didn't have my second child until Sam was almost 3. But I didn't. I don't think I started taking care of myself until Sam was about 11. And it's, I guess it was a detriment to myself, but like, you just become so absorbed in the health and well-being of your child, and just making, sure that you're giving them the best shot in life that they have. I mean, nobody, no mother is thinking, like, when they're expecting their first, we're all thinking, is my child going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a movie star, a tennis player? No one's thinking, is my child going to be able to eat by mouth or talk, or, so real, I don't know. I mean, when I look back, because I do a lot for myself now, but when I look back, you just don't even think about that. You're just so involved with just making sure your child is okay.
For me, it goes in waves. So when Alex is in a good place and he's calm and he's happy, because he used to always be happy. He's not always so happy anymore.
That's any
I'm
22-year-old.
good.
That's any 22-year-old boy. That's has nothing to do with autism.
That's very possible. But I mean, one of my major goals, I don't know. I think I'm not, I don't think I take care of me as well as maybe I ever should, but I think I like working towards something all the time. And if I take care of me, then I'm not working towards something. But I just wanted to have as much of a normal, happy, calm family life for myself, my other kids, and my husband and I. And that's really hard when you have something not going as planned, and when it takes many twists and turns. So I think in a lot of ways, my husband and I are lucky, because Alex most of the time is very well behaved. And just because Carrie and I are on today, we fully know that all these kids are so different. And some people, I don't know how they take care of themselves, because it's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. And, but I do get a lot of downtime, thankfully.
Right. And I think for me, I, at a very young age, we were able to get round the clock nursing care for Sam. Otherwise, I don't think we would have been able to handle him at home because he was so medically fragile for such a long time and still is in many ways, but better. But definitely one of my biggest pieces of advice to anyone that has a special needs child, no matter what the severity is when people offer to help, you accept that help. And if you can get help, you get that help. And even though I had the help, I don't think I started to take good advantage of that help for years. But it's a blessing. It really is.
Carrie, I know you and your family started a company to help advocate and support for special needs children. Tell people about that. And I'd love, and Jodi, same thing with you. I'd like to just know what resources are available to people?
I'm well now there are, I mean, and Jodi, you know so much as well. I mean, there's many, many resources to help families. I mean, just in the state of New Jersey alone is probably one of the best states you could be in, aside from Massachusetts, for funding and help and programs for children with special needs. I know Jodi and I both belong to an organization called the Friendship Circle, and that's all over the country, I think, but I don't think in every state, but certainly here in Livingston, we have that. And that's been a tremendous help for all of us. And they're a great resource. But yes, Scott, Sam's dad, started a company called SJ Health Insurance Advocates. And basically, he started it because he had to learn very quickly what our insurance was going to provide for Sam in terms of the nursing care, in terms of all the therapies, in terms of all the different doctors that we had to go to. So he learned how the insurances work and what to do with them. And so that started his company, but now it has morphed into more mental health. However, there is a section of his company that still works with families that have special needs children. But yeah, I think there are just so many resources out there. I mean, all you have to do is go onto Cafe Moms or Google, or join a Facebook group of moms with kids with special needs, and a million resources pop up.
Yeah, things are just so different now than when Alex was first diagnosed, and I'll definitely agree that New Jersey is where it's at. I would probably try to keep Alex, especially now that he's an adult, in the state of New Jersey, because not only are the best experts here, but the best funding. I think there's a lot more that can be done. For me, right away, we started fundraising for autism. And then Jeff and I both got very involved in his first school that he was at for 9 years. My husband was on the board for a long time. I was head of fundraising. And, I think like if I turn something into a business, then I can take away the emotion. But also being there for other people. I'm sure Carrie gets a lot of calls. I do as well. And we have so much to offer people just starting, right? And it's a lot of paperwork. It's not only finding the right experts and maybe failing sometimes and having to find someone else and someone that meshes with your kid's personality, not just their expertise, but also trying to find the funding, because some of it blatantly is completely unaffordable, which, is a whole other area to be concerned about, is those people who don't know who to contact and then also don't know how to get the funding. And it actually could really break your heart. So it's really important to speak to and do as much research as possible.
One of the things as I know both of you so well, is I've come to see a commonality in you, in that you both have great emotional fitness, in the sense that most people, when they have a challenge or a problem, it kind of knocks them down. They kind of stay down and they kind of dwell in the problem. And like one of the things, Carrie, you said, like at the top of the podcast, was, when something happens in my life that doesn't go the right way, let's call it, or there's a problem or a challenge, you've got to deal with the challenge. It's not going to go away because it goes away. You've got to deal with it. So I'm not saying you don't deal with and look at it through rose-colored glasses, but I can see both of your minds immediately go to, hey, what's great about that? well, if my son is smiling, or today is a smile, is there's Alex had a great day, or Sam appreciated the new toy he got, or he just enjoyed holding your hand for the day. That's a great day. That's great. That's what's great about that. And I think that it's so much about mindset, because, quite frankly, in the world, you really can't control. You have no control over whether it's going to be a good day or a bad day. We can't control so much in this world, but you can control how you react to it and how you think about that. And that's not just for mothers with special needs kids. I think the whole world would be a lot better place if everybody had the same mindset that you guys had. And it's that to me is very inspiring, and it's something that I see both of you, one of the many things that you guys have in common. Um,
You too, Mark.
well, well, I would also just say that, there's a lot of people that have helped you you mentioned all the help that you've gotten. Uh, would love to people to tell you the kinds of help you've gotten, and some of the things that, I don't know if I'm not saying you should shout out to those people, but, what are the kinds of helps that other parents could get from friends, family? It's one thing to get state help or money or effort. What kinds of other small helps? Just babysitting while you got your nails done for a half an hour, or, it doesn't have to be, a grant for $100,000 for a group home. It could be, it could be something as simple as, allowing you 10 minutes to change into a pair of shorts instead of your, your work clothes. You know,
I think for me, so when I first had Sam, I literally felt like I didn't want to see anybody. I didn't want to talk to anybody. It was just me and Sam, our nurses, and all the therapists. I was like in a hole. And I really like rejected anybody wanting to come and visit us. I was just, I don't want to use the word that I was like, that I was ashamed, but maybe I was. I had this baby, I produced a baby that just didn't work, right? So I was really depressed. But I have to say that so much of my family, and as annoying as I might have thought it was at the time, so much of my family imposed themselves upon me and came over. They were always visiting. They were always there. They always came. They were always with me. So at that particular point, just knowing that I wasn't alone and that they weren't just there for Sam, but they were there to take care of me too, I think was a really big thing for me.
Um, I would say I tap into young kids who are looking for volunteer hours a lot, or I pay them. And Alex always wanted to be more social than he really was capable of. But even having now as a 22-year-old, I'll have anyone that can drive, and he thinks it's his friend, and it's a beautiful thing. And he calls and he FaceTimes them. He thinks one of my 20-year-old sons, so his younger brother, I almost said older because it feels like he's older, but he thinks that one of his girlfriend girls is his girlfriend. So I have a lot of wraparound, like with family, of course, but our community really comes out and helps. I mean, if I post something, I've got like 10 kids, I'll take Alex out, I'll take Alex out. So, I mean, other than therapists and teachers in my life, that helped a lot. But you know what? I do have a major shout out, and I'll get a copy and she'll hear this. But Alex's former principal, she just recently retired from his most recent school. It was Spectrum 360. During COVID was a really, really horrible, rough patch for Alex. Being inside, not being able to go to restaurants and schools was horrible for him. And he became incredibly aggressive towards me. And that principal allowed Alex to have her cell phone, and he was calling her all times of the day and night, weekends, whenever. And you find someone like that, and I have the chills, and they change your whole life and outlook. And it's super special. Someone with that kind of patience and connection is incredible.
would you guys share just like maybe a heartwarming or an inspiring moment from from your sons? Is there anything that stands out for each of you about Sam and Alex?
You mean one time in life, like one of like the biggest heartwarming moments?
Yeah, or anything you want to talk about. I just these are the I do not know Sam, but I know Alex, and he's a special, terrific kid.
I think for me, Sam didn't start walking until he was 9, and he worked really hard and wanted to so badly, and wanted to move and wanted to walk. And I mean, we just pulled therapists from all over the world to come stay with us to help him, get to that potential. And I'll never forget, and I have it on video. I'll never forget the first time he took his first steps and walked towards me and just literally like fell into me and put his arms around me. And I just lifted him up and spun him around. It was literally the greatest moment of my entire life.
Hmm. I have a big moment and then little moments that happen all the time. I mean, the biggest was Alex getting bar mitzvahed with his brother. It was just super special. I thought I was having another son soon after my first, and thought they were going to be best buddies and, play video games. And since that didn't come true, I had them bar mitzvah together, and it was honestly one of the most special hours of my entire life. Alex just memorized everything. I apologize. And the other thing is, and this comes back to his principal, she taught him how to text over the phone, and he's constantly texting everyone and calling people now since being in COVID. And his texts seem neurotypical. So there's so much more in there. And I constantly screen shoot like whatever he writes and send it to family and friends that get it. And it every single time it's a huge high to see what's going on in his brain.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day. I just hope three things could come from this podcast. The reason I wanted to do that is a couple of things. One is I wanted to make sure that everybody that has a special needs child knows that there are resources out there to help them, and that there is help, and there is hope, and there's an opportunity, and that people should know that about that. I think that you got to get the word out, because you know because that will help a lot of people. But I also hope two other things occur from this. The second thing I'd love to see is for all the people out there that don't have a special needs child, amazing what an impact you can make by just doing a little random act of kindness to somebody that does have a special needs child. Just reach out to your neighbor, or your sister or a friend, and just to offer to give them just a little bit of help to just make their day a little bit easier and make that child's life a little bit better. And by the way, while we're at it, the third thing I'd like to say is, why do we have to limit it to just special needs children? Why shouldn't we do this for everybody? Why shouldn't we all reach out and help people be a little bit kinder? And all I can tell you is I am inspired by both of you ladies, and I will continue to be. And I just want to thank you for spending a few moments with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.